The ultimatum. I need a husband by tomorrow. Those were the exact words she said. Not soon. Not eventually. Tomorrow. I laughed at first, an instinctive, defensive sound, because when someone drops a sentence like that across a diner table at 11:47 p.m., laughter feels safer than panic. But she didn't laugh back. She just stared at me over her untouched cup of coffee, fingers wrapped so tightly around the mug that her knuckles had gone pale. The neon sign outside flickered through the window, open 24 hours, casting intermittent red light across her face. Each flash made her look more exhausted, more desperate. "I'm serious, Ethan," she said. That was when I realized this wasn't a joke. And that was when I said the dumbest, most life-altering sentence of my entire existence. "Then you'll have to come and live at my place." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Her eyebrows lifted, just slightly. "Your place." "My house," I clarified. "I mean, if we're doing this, it has to look real." Silence settled between us, thick and heavy. Somewhere behind the counter, a waitress dropped silverware. Outside, a semi-truck roared down Route 17, shaking the windows. Finally, she leaned back in the booth. "You're offering to marry me," she said slowly, "and move me into your house, by tomorrow." "I'm offering to help," I corrected, though even to my own ears it sounded ridiculous. She studied me like she was weighing the odds of survival. "Why?" she asked.
Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow.
That was a fair question. Because the truth was, I had no good reason. No logical explanation. No plan beyond the next 24 hours. But I'd known Claire Monroe since high school. I'd watched her lose her mother to cancer at 23, bury her father 2 years later, and hold herself together with nothing but grit and sarcasm. I'd watched her smile through heartbreaks and pretend independence was a choice, not a necessity. And now she was asking for a husband by tomorrow. Which meant something was very, very wrong. "What happens if you don't?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "I lose everything." 6 hours earlier. Claire hadn't planned on ending up at the Silver Spoon Diner that night. She'd planned on sleeping, on collapsing face first into her bed after another double shift at the hospital billing office. Instead, she'd come home to find a manila envelope taped to her apartment door. Final notice. Inside were foreclosure papers for her grandmother's house in Connecticut, the house she'd grown up in every summer, the house her grandmother had left her under one brutal condition. The house must remain in the Monroe family, occupied by a married couple. At the time, it had sounded archaic. Harmless. Something she could deal with later. Later had arrived. The bank had given her 30 days to prove compliance. 30 days had passed. And the executor, a man who clearly enjoyed power more than decency, had offered one final extension. 24 hours. Married. Living in the house. Or it would be sold. She tried everything. Dating apps. Old flames. Even a coworker she barely liked. No one was willing to marry a woman they barely knew for a house they didn't own. No one except, apparently, me. Back at the diner. "I'm not asking you to fall in love with me," Claire said, breaking the silence. "This would be temporary. A formality. Marriage is a formality now," I said. She shrugged. "For some people." I ran a hand through my hair. I could already imagine my sister's reaction. My co-workers. The looks. The questions. You'd move in tomorrow, I said. We'd have to look like a real couple. I can fake normal, she said. I've been doing it my whole life. That hit harder than I expected. And after? I asked. She hesitated. After, we figure it out. That should have been my cue to stop. To tell her I was sorry. To walk away. Instead, I pictured my empty house, the one I'd bought after the divorce, too big and too quiet. The guest room that still smelled like fresh paint. The nights I spent eating dinner alone in front of the TV. I pictured her sleeping in her car because she'd refused to ask for help. Fine, I said. But there are rules. Her eyes widened. You're serious? I don't joke about marriage, I replied. I already failed at it once. She nodded. So did my parents. Rule 1, I told her, we tell no one the truth. Rule 2, we share expenses. Rule 3, if this starts hurting either of us, we stop. She reached across the table and took my hand. Her palm was warm. Steady. Thank you, she whispered. That was the first moment I felt afraid. The morning after. At 6:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Claire, I'm outside. I opened the door to find her standing on my porch with 2 suitcases and a cardboard box labeled kitchen in black marker. She looked smaller in the morning light. Less frantic. More real. This is it? I asked. This is my life, she said. Condensed. I stepped aside. Welcome home, I said. She walked in, paused, and looked around. You're really doing this, she said softly. So are you. She smiled then, a real one. Brief. Vulnerable. Neither of us noticed the neighbor watching from across the street. Neither of us realized that by sunset, everything would start to unravel. Moving in, lying together. By noon, my house no longer felt like mine. Claire's presence didn't arrive quietly, it came in waves. The sound of suitcase wheels over hardwood. The soft thud of cabinet doors opening and closing. The faint citrus smell of her detergent mixing with my unscented, forgettable soap. She wasn't loud. She wasn't messy. But she was there. And that changed everything. I leaned against the kitchen counter while she unpacked her box labeled kitchen, pulling out mismatched mugs and a chipped ceramic bowl with a crack down the side. That one's my favorite, she said quickly when she noticed me staring. It leaks, but only if you fill it too much. Why keep it then? She shrugged. It's been with me through worse. I nodded like I understood, though I didn't. Not yet. She placed it gently in the cabinet anyway, right next to my identical, soulless set of white mugs. A marriage of opposites. The first lie. At 2:17 p.m., the doorbell rang. Claire froze. We hadn't told anyone yet. Not my sister. Not her coworkers. Not even the executor. And yet someone was already standing on my porch. I opened the door to find Mrs. Daly, my neighbor from across the street. Retired. Curious. Sharp-eyed in a way that made secrets itch. Well, hello, Ethan, she said, peering past me into the house. I saw the moving bags. Thought you might have finally found yourself a wife. Claire appeared at my shoulder, like she'd rehearsed it. Hi, she said brightly. I'm Claire. Mrs. Daly's eyes lit up. Oh, you're pretty. That explains it. I felt Claire's hand slide into mine. Not gripping. Not trembling. Steady. Wife, I said. The word landed hard in my chest. Congratulations, Mrs. Daly said. About time. After she left, Claire let go immediately. Sorry, she said. Instinct. No, I replied. Good instinct. The lie had worked. That scared me more than if it hadn't. Paperwork and pretending. By late afternoon, we were sitting at the dining table surrounded by documents. Marriage license forms. Identification copies. A checklist from the executor's office with red ink circling proof of residence. It's legal, Claire said. Just, morally flexible. We drove to the courthouse at 4. The judge was young. Efficient. Barely looked up. Any objections? He asked, monotone. I glanced at Claire. She was staring straight ahead, jaw set, like if she looked at me too long she might bolt. No, I said. No, she echoed. Just like that, we were married. No music. No vows worth remembering. No kiss. Outside, the sun was already dropping low, staining the sky orange and red. Congratulations, the clerk said, handing us the certificate. You can kiss if you want. We didn't. Not yet. The drive back. We rode home in silence. At a red light, Claire finally spoke. You don't have to pretend when we're alone. I know. But out there, she gestured vaguely, we do. I know. She nodded, then stared out the window. Her reflection in the glass looked tired. Older than her 31 years. You okay? I asked. She smiled faintly. Ask me tomorrow. First night as strangers. That night, we stood in the hallway between the bedrooms. Guest room's yours, I said. I thought married couples. Fake marriage, I reminded her gently. You don't owe me anything. Her shoulders relaxed. Thank you. She paused, then added, for what it's worth, you're a good man. I watched her disappear into the guest room. And for the first time since my divorce, I felt the house breathe again. The call. At 9:43 p.m., Claire's phone rang. I could hear the tension snap in her voice before she even answered. Yes, she said. This is Claire Monroe. A pause. Yes. I'm married. Another pause. I can send the certificate tonight. She hung up and sank onto the couch. That was the executor, she said. He's coming tomorrow. To inspect the house. My house. Our house, she corrected automatically. I swallowed. When? 10 a.m. Of course. Rehearsal. We spent the next hour practicing answers like we were preparing for a trial. How did you meet? High school. Lost touch. Reconnected. Why so sudden? Life's too short. Who cooks? Both. Where does Claire sleep? Master bedroom. That last one hung between us. I can move my stuff, I said. She shook her head. He might check. So we moved my clothes to one side of the closet. Put her suitcase under the bed. Left a book on the nightstand that wasn't mine. At midnight, we stood awkwardly in the doorway of the master bedroom. This doesn't mean anything, she said quickly. I know. But when she crawled into bed, fully clothed, facing the opposite direction, the space between us felt louder than words. The inspection. The next morning, the executor arrived early. Mr. Harold Whitman. Gray suit. Cold smile. Clipboard held like a weapon. He walked through the house slowly, opening doors, peering into closets, nodding as if disappointed by nothing and everything at once. "And you sleep where?" he asked Claire. She glanced at me. "With my husband," she said. He scribbled something. At the bedroom, he paused longer than necessary. "New marriage," he said. "Living arrangements can be complicated." "They're not," I said. His eyes flicked to mine. Sharp. Assessing. "Good," he said. "The house in Connecticut will remain in the family. For now." When he left, Claire collapsed onto the couch, laughing and crying at the same time. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt the weight of something settling in. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. That night. Later, as we sat eating takeout on the floor, Claire looked at me and said quietly, "You know, if this ever becomes real." I waited. That would scare me more than losing the house. I didn't answer. Because somewhere between the lies and the pretending, I was starting to forget which parts were fake. When pretending starts to feel dangerous. The first thing I learned about being married to Claire was that she woke up before the sun. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly enough that if I wasn't already half awake, I wouldn't have noticed at all. The soft rustle of sheets. The faint click of the bathroom light. The low hum of the shower starting. At 5:42 a.m., she padded back into the bedroom and froze when she saw my eyes open. "Sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't," I lied. She nodded, then sat on the edge of the bed to put on her shoes. For a moment, the room felt unbearably intimate, two people sharing space they had no business sharing. And yet, she smelled like lavender soap. Clean. Familiar. "Coffee?" she asked. "Yes," I said too quickly. The routine. Within a week, we had a routine. Claire took the early showers. I made coffee. We shared the morning news like a normal couple, nodding at headlines we didn't care about. She left her hair ties on the kitchen counter. I stopped moving them. We didn't touch much. A hand on the back in public. Fingers brushing when we passed something across the table. Enough to be convincing. Not enough to be dangerous. Or so I told myself. The first cracks. The first real problem came in the form of my sister. Laura had never liked surprises, and she definitely didn't like being left out of life-altering information. She showed up on a Saturday afternoon without calling, classic Laura, holding a bottle of wine and a suspicious expression. "You get married and don't tell me," she demanded as soon as I opened the door. Claire appeared beside me, already smiling. "Hi, Laura. I'm Claire." They hugged like they'd known each other for years. Inside, Laura wasted no time. "So," she said, eyeing us over the rim of her glass, "how long has this been going on?" I felt Claire's hand slip into mine under the table. "Long enough," Claire said smoothly. Laura raised an eyebrow. "That's not an answer." "We reconnected last year," I said. "Kept it private." "Why?" "Because it was fake. Because it was desperate. Because it wasn't supposed to last. Because after my divorce, I said instead, I didn't want opinions." Laura studied my face, then Claire's. Finally, she smiled. "Well, she's good for you. You look lighter." That night, after Laura left, Claire stood by the sink, staring at nothing. "She likes you," she said. "She always does," I replied. "That's not what scares me." The rules begin to blur. We'd agreed on rules. No emotional dependency. No physical intimacy. No promises. But rules are fragile things. One night, after a long day, Claire came home shaking. She didn't say anything, just sat on the couch and hugged her knees. "What happened?" I asked. She hesitated. "Nothing," she said automatically. I sat beside her anyway. After a long silence, she whispered, "A patient died today. A kid." His mother screamed so hard they had to sedate her. She pressed her palms to her eyes. "I came home to an empty apartment every night after my parents died," she said. "I promised myself I'd never be alone like that again." Without thinking, I pulled her into my arms. She didn't resist. She cried into my shoulder, quietly, like she was afraid of breaking something. That was the moment the rules broke. The neighborhood bar. 2 weeks in, we went to O'Malley's, the neighborhood bar where everyone knew everyone else. "This is a bad idea," I said. "We need to be seen," Claire replied. Together. Inside, the air smelled like beer and old wood. We slid into a booth. A man approached our table. Tall. Confident. Too familiar. "Claire Monroe," he said, smiling. "I thought that was you." Her body stiffened. "Ethan," she said carefully, "this is Mark Reynolds." "An ex." "Of course." "Married?" Mark asked, glancing between us. "Yes," Claire said, firmly this time. He laughed. "Didn't think you were the settling type." I stood before I realized it. "She didn't settle," I said calmly. "She chose." Mark looked me up and down, then nodded. "Good luck," he said. "You'll need it." After he left, Claire exhaled shakily. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For standing up." I shrugged. "Part of the job." She looked at me like she didn't believe that. The almost moment. That night, back home, the tension lingered. We stood in the kitchen, inches apart. "I hate him," she said suddenly. I figured. He made me feel like I was too much. Or not enough. Always one or the other. I reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't pull away. For a second, I thought she might kiss me. For a second, I wanted her to. Then she stepped back. "This is getting dangerous," she said. "Yes," I agreed. The question. Later that night, as we lay on opposite sides of the bed, Claire spoke into the darkness. "Ethan." "Yeah. If this had been real, if we'd met without all this pressure." I waited. "Do you think we would have worked?" The honest answer rose in my chest, warm and terrifying. "I think," I said slowly, "we already are." She turned toward me, eyes catching the moonlight. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then she whispered, "That's what I was afraid of. The truth comes knocking." The lie would have held longer if we'd stayed quiet. If we'd kept our heads down, smiled for neighbors, played house without looking too closely at what we were becoming. But lies don't collapse gently. They announce themselves. The letter. It arrived on a Tuesday morning, tucked between grocery coupons and a credit card offer. A thick envelope. No return address. Legal weight. Claire found it first. I heard the sharp intake of breath from the kitchen. "Ethan," she said. "We have a problem." Inside was a notice from the estate's secondary beneficiary, Richard Monroe, her late father's younger brother. A man Claire hadn't spoken to in over a decade. The letter was simple. Polite. Cruel. "I have reason to believe the marriage is not bona fide. I will be contesting the inheritance." Claire's hands were shaking. "He always hated me," she said. "He wanted the house sold the minute Grandma died." "When is the hearing?" I asked. She turned the page. 3 weeks. Pressure changes people. 3 weeks doesn't sound like much. It's enough time for fear to get creative. Claire became sharper. More controlled. Every interaction suddenly felt like a performance. She corrected the way I held her hand in public. Reminded me to kiss her cheek when people were watching. Asked me to leave my jacket on her chair at restaurants. "We need witnesses," she said. "Proof." "This is starting to feel like entrapment," I replied. "This is survival." We stopped talking about feelings. That should have helped. It didn't. The phone call. 2 days later, my ex-wife called. Megan. I hadn't heard her voice in over a year. "I heard you got married," she said flatly. "News travels fast." "So does bullshit," she replied. I closed my eyes. "What do you want, Meg?" "I want to know who she is," she said. "And why you didn't tell me." "We're divorced." "And yet," she said, "this feels personal." When I hung up, Claire was standing in the doorway. "How much did she hear?" she asked. "Enough." Claire pressed her lips together. "She could be a problem." "She won't say anything." "You don't know that." Neither did I. The breaking point. The fight started over nothing. Dishes. A tone. A look held too long. "You're acting like this is a business transaction," I snapped. "Because it is," she shot back. "That's what you agreed to." "And when did I stop being allowed to care?" Her eyes flashed. "Care is a liability." That one hurt. She saw it immediately. "I didn't mean." "I think you did." Silence stretched between us. "I can't lose that house," she said quietly. "It's the last thing that's mine." "And what am I?" I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer. That was worse than any answer. The decision. That night, I slept on the couch. At 2:14 a.m., Claire sat on the floor beside me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I don't want to be your shield," I said. "I want to be your choice." She swallowed hard. "If this fails," she said, "I lose everything. I can't afford to think about us." I stared at the ceiling. "Then we stop pretending," I said. "We make it real." Her breath caught. "That's insane." "So is what we're doing now." She didn't respond. But she didn't leave either. Richard Monroe. We met him the following Sunday. Claire insisted. "He needs to see us together," she said. Richard Monroe was exactly what I expected, polished, smug, and disappointed that Claire had survived without him. "You married quickly," he said over lunch. "Love doesn't follow schedules," Claire replied. "Neither does fraud," he said lightly. I leaned forward. "You want to accuse us of something," I said, "do it." He smiled. "I already have." The ultimatum. 2 days before the hearing, Richard made his move. He called Claire directly. "If you admit the marriage was arranged," he said, "I'll drop the contest. You keep your dignity. I get the house." Claire hung up and collapsed. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "I can't keep hurting you." I knelt in front of her. "Then don't." She looked at me, eyes red. "This was supposed to be fake," she whispered. "But I think I fell in love with you." The world tilted. "I know," I said. "I already did." The choice. The hearing was in 48 hours. Claire had to choose. Lie and lose me. Tell the truth and lose the house. Or stand with me and risk everything. She took my hand. "I choose you," she said. And for the first time, the lie stopped being a lie. The day the lie became the truth. The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant, like a place where hope went to be cross-examined. Claire squeezed my hand as we took our seats in the small hearing room. Her fingers were cold, but steady. Not the grip of someone clinging out of fear, of someone choosing to stand. Across the aisle, Richard Monroe sat with his lawyer, calm and confident, already measuring the value of what he believed he was about to win. 3 weeks of pretending had led us here. Or maybe, 3 weeks of becoming something real. The hearing. The judge was older. Tired-eyed. The kind of man who had seen every trick in the book and hated wasting time. "Mr. Monroe," he said, "you're contesting the legitimacy of this marriage." "Yes, Your Honor," Richard replied smoothly. The timing alone suggests coercion or convenience. The lawyer stood. Presented dates. Emails. Circumstances. Then it was Claire's turn. She stood, shoulders squared, chin lifted, not defensive, not rehearsed. "My grandmother believed marriage meant partnership," Claire said. "Not perfection. Not timing. Choice." Richard scoffed quietly. "And did you choose this marriage?" the judge asked, freely. Claire looked at me. "Not for permission. For truth." "Yes," she said. "I chose him." The question no one expected. The judge turned to me. "Mr. Walker," he said, "why did you marry Ms. Monroe so suddenly?" Every prepared answer vanished. Because the truth had finally become simple. Because she needed someone, I said. And because I realized I wanted to be that someone. Even if it cost me. The room went still. Richard's smile faltered. The judge leaned back, studying us. "You're aware," he said, "that false testimony carries consequences." "Yes," I said. Claire nodded. "We know. The evidence that mattered." The judge didn't ask for photos. Didn't ask for neighbors or receipts. He asked one thing. "When did you fall in love?" Claire laughed softly through tears. "After," she said. "After we lied. After we pretended. After we stopped protecting ourselves." I added quietly, "when it stopped being about the house." The judge closed the file. "I've seen marriages formed for worse reasons," he said. "And far weaker truths." He looked at Richard. "Contest denied." After. Outside the courthouse, the sun felt brighter than it had any right to. Claire laughed, really laughed, for the first time since this began. "It's over," she said. "We're free." "Yes," I said. "But there's still something we haven't decided." She looked at me. "Us. The future. I don't want a marriage built on panic," she said. I want one built on choice. So do I. She took my face in her hands. This time, she said, ask me properly. The real proposal. We went home. No witnesses. No scripts. I knelt in the living room where her boxes still hadn't been unpacked. Claire Monroe, I said, will you marry me, again, because you want to? She didn't hesitate. Yes, she said. 1,000 times yes. Epilogue, 1 year later. The house in Connecticut still stands. So does our marriage. We painted the walls together. Argued about curtains. Planted a tree in the backyard. No pretending. No ultimatums. Just two people who accidentally found truth inside a lie.